Hello, and welcome to the Transport Room. My name is Chris Garris, and I'm your host. Today, we are joined by my friend Jenn from the United Kingdom. Hello, Jenn.
Hi, Chris.
Hello. It's been a while. Haven't seen you since we were in Dallas.
I know, that feels like such a long time ago now.
So I want to thank you for agreeing to come on here and, just talk about Star Trek in general and how you got involved in it and what brought you to it, the fandom, a little bit about yourself, like you said, things you've done, favorite episodes, favorite series, all that type of stuff. So, I can tell you what got me started was actually Star Wars into sci-fi. We have to be nice. They're both good franchises. And as I was talking with someone recently, I think that's what got a lot of people into sci-fi and Star Trek, at least in our age group, and TOS for sure. But then when it came to series, my first real series to get to watch was Star Trek: The Next Generation when it came out, because it was really the only one that was being broadcast on the local affiliates down here where I live. So I remember watching it after it always came on after the news. So I would have to stay up late. And what would really be annoying was when they decided to preempt it for something else or who knows why they didn't show up, because it was in syndication. So, so what would be your favorite series if you have one?
Oh, jumping straight
to all this.
Jumping straight to favorite series.
Sure.
Okay, well, I mean, I got into Star Trek. My dad and my sister went to see Star Wars. So Star Wars was their thing. So Star Trek, being spacey, became my thing. Cool. My favorite series for such a long time, I'd have to say Voyager was my favorite series. And I know
I did not know that.
Yeah. And I think that could be a bit controversial. As I've got more involved with the Star Trek community, it feels like Voyager wasn't necessarily the most popular choice. But yeah, that was the first series that I actually sat down and actually watched with intent. And what I loved about it is that it's about being pushed out of their comfort zone. When you think of Star Trek and they fly around and they get involved in stuff, they have fights, they make friendships and stuff. It's really easy to have that bravado of we're here when you've got the backup. So,
correct.
If they get into trouble, they can put out a distress call and an ally or the Federation will come and help them. And so when they got pulled into the Delta Quadrant, they were completely on their own. All that backup disappeared. So, they had no friends. They had no idea where they were. And what I liked about that is so many people in life find themselves in the same situation at various points. And whether or not people get pulled away from friends, family, it could be losing their job. And in Voyager, when Janeway was in that situation, millions of miles away from home, all she had to keep her going was the knowing that her mission was to get the crew home. Correct. And the whole way through, she never gave up on that mission. No matter what was thrown at them, she had to find a way to deal with it without the help and the backup. And she had to create new allies and learn everything again. So almost everything that they'd learned in the Alpha Quadrant, they had to translate into Delta Quadrant. And I just loved that about Voyager, the fact that Janeway, she never faltered, she never gave up on her mission, and and also the moral battles that she had. Fighting between what's best for the crew and the people that she felt responsible for, and still operating in that old system of the Prime Directive as well. Just being put in a place where space didn't play by the same rules that they were used to. So that's
a good way of putting it. Yeah, it really is a good way of putting it, because everybody, like you were saying, in the Alpha Quadrant knew about most people knew about the Federation, knew about Starfleet, and she did have the ability to send a subspace message, and somebody can help them out eventually, a lot quicker than 70 years, or 75 years. And that was really cool about the fact that she did not, most of the time, she stuck to everything Starfleet and the Federation. And she made that as very clear honestly, in the very first episode on Caretaker, that when they integrated the crews, they were going to run as a Starfleet vessel and a ship. And that was it. They weren't going to, just because they were thrown 70,000 light years away, just throw the rule book out the window. So, and that helped. And I agree. Voyager was kind of a slow burn. And when I watched it initially, I was a little, I don't know. It took me a bit to get into it, but I actually do like it. I really did like it. And I've learned some stuff too, since being part of several other podcasts and Patreon groups, like the Delta Flyers. I was in San Antonio at SpaceCon convention in October, and I got to sit there and talk to Garrett Wang for a while.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And he let us know of an issue that happened after the pilot premiered. It was very interesting.
I feel like there's some juicy gossip that you're about to divulge.
It's not even really, I wouldn't say it was gossip, but yes. He said Paramount, after the pilot premiered, had a range of phone calls come into them, all from, "This is awesome. It's about time we have a woman in the captain's chair," to threats. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I when he said that, I was like, are you kidding me?
Threats because they dared put a woman in charge.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
it was crazy. So anyway, it's a little tidbit that I got to learn from him.
Wow.
It's interesting. I was shocked that would happen, but the world wasn't ready at the time. And I don't even know if they are still to the day, but we're not going to go to there. So.
Yeah. But going back to Voyager. Oh, go on.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, going back to Voyager, it was a testament to really knowing your values and sticking by your values and living by those values. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you did surprise me today, because I was not expecting that to be your answer.
Really?
Because of how we met. I was thinking it'd be that other show.
Right. Well,
Enterprise.
It is. It is now. It is now. Voyager for such a long time was number one box set, the lot. And then this year, I took a massive leap of faith to watch Enterprise, and I had resisted it for such a long time because of Scott being captain, and I did not want to see Sam Beckett in a starship. And because I grew up with Quantum Leap, it was like, no.
Same here.
And I could not get past it. When did it come out? 2001, I think. Yeah, and what we're now, 2024. So it's taken,
24 years.
over 20 years for me to get over that little small detail. But now I would say Enterprise is now my favorite. Voyager is a very close second, but it's just tipped over. I've watched it maybe the entire series maybe 4 times this year. And that's what's pushed it above, I think. And and the reason why it's overtaken Voyager is because it's set in a time that is so close to ours. I know it's set, in the future, but when you look at it, they're still learning. They're learning the warp drive, and they are starting that curiosity of space. And I kind of want to say we're not that far off. I don't believe we're that far off. When you look at technology today and how quick it's advancing,
correct.
And then you look at Enterprise, you can believe it. I think there's now that element of, do you know what, this could happen. It's not millions of years in the future. This potentially could happen. So Enterprise.
I agree. And I think that's why it has become one of my favorite episodes of series as well. Because we actually got to watch them take their first steps into interstellar space. And they stumbled. And they stumbled hard. But also, they weren't expecting it to be like that out there. I feel Captain Archer expected everybody that they ran into to be like the Vulcans and other races that they had met who were friendly and weren't always shooting at them, which wasn't the case. And it really opened his eyes. And as much as I feel like he had to suck up his pride to understand that, it's hard to say this, that the Vulcans were right in some aspects because humanity was maybe not fully ready.
But do you think, though, that humanity would ever be fully ready to do that?
How would we?
You've got to go out there and experience it and learn how to approach everything, how to interact with these people by doing it. So.
Oh no, there's no way of learning. That's the only way. Is you're going to stumble. And so hopefully you don't start any interstellar wars.
So you genuinely think the Vulcans were correct to hold them back for such a long time?
Maybe not for that long, but for a while, yeah. Because obviously we don't know everything. It's a show, but we don't know everything about it. But, they didn't even have photon torpedoes when they left, nor did they have all their weapons installed when they left. And during the Xindi incident, he made it very clear he wished he'd had those weapons before they left, which it also, it broke him. He grew, he changed as a character and as a captain. Now, do I really think the Vulcans should have done what they did? I have to say yes. It kills me to say yes. But in the end, I think it was for the better. It saved humanity because could you imagine what would have happened if they would have gone out before they had Warp 5 and even more advanced weapons and run into the Klingons?
But isn't the whole premise behind the Vulcans is they were holding back progress? So they didn't want them to have the warp drive. And they were the ones that were stunting that progression. You know, true. So if they hadn't have intervened in such a big way, they would have
that's a valid point too.
You know, they would have had the technology. They just would have had it a lot sooner. So
true. And then again, maybe I don't know. But as we got to, was it the last season? We learned why. I don't know if you remember this part, but we learned why they resisted. The Vulcans resisted so much. It's one of the last scenes that Vaughn Armstrong was in when him and Ambassador Raval were talking, and Forrest asked him, "Are you afraid of humans?" And basically he says yes, because humans represented something that they remembered, which was Vulcans back when they were, fought all the time and didn't have logic. And what scared them was the fact that it took them 1,000 years, give or take, they said, to get over fighting and war, and humans did under a century.
Yeah.
So that explains why they were scared, because they said, if humanity could do that in 100 years, what will they do in 200 and 300 years? So I get it.
Yeah, but that's true. It is true.
It is true. So now I've got another question. So that's our series, but do you have a favorite episode?
Do you know what? I mean, the very, very superficial, high level one would be anything that had the guys in the decom chamber, or like honestly, that's the superficial one.
Shutterpod 1 would have probably been a great episode. Was it
Yeah, there were. I mean, you got the two great guys together, but they're covered up in blankets. So I'm thinking more when they're on the desert, for example, playing those kind of episodes. But that is just the superficial response. In terms of favorite episode from a deeper perspective, I don't, because every time I watch them, I will say a different episode is my favorite, because it depends where I am in life and mentally to the episode that I'm watching.
It's understandable.
Yeah, I don't have if I had to pick an episode to watch over and over again, it would be I've forgotten what it's called, but it's the desert one.
Yeah, I don't remember the episode but the name, but I know what you're talking about.
I'm trying to remember the aliens that were in it, and
I'm gonna say for a good episode that I really like was the Borg one called Regeneration, when they meet the Borg that were on Earth from First Contact.
Yes.
So I loved that twist. I really loved that twist.
Yeah.
It was good. And then, that's probably my favorite one in that regards. But then a good solid one was the one when the Ferengi board the ship. And we don't know it's the Ferengi. Well, they don't know. We do.
Yeah.
And they still give him a hard time. They give Connor Trenier a hard time about that episode. He's running around in his blue underwear. And that was so funny. Even to this day, he still gets a hard time about that. So yeah, those are mine. Speaking of the guys,
Hmm.
did you have fun in Dallas at Trek to Dallas last month?
I did. I did. It was brilliant, and it was so good to the point where I'm a little bit nervous to go to another Star Trek convention. Yeah, the it, and I've heard people say this before. You have to go and experience it to
Mm-hmm.
understand it. But I feel I don't I'm still having trouble putting it into words how I felt while I was there. There was one day, I think it was the Saturday night, and I
Mm-hmm.
walked back into my hotel room,
Yeah.
and I, walked in, put my bag down on the bed, and I just stood there and went, "What a surreal day I've had."
Mm-hmm.
Has this day just actually happened? Because there were so many surreal things that I could
Mm-hmm.
never have imagined happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just,
It is a very eye-opening experience,
yeah.
especially at this one because I went to SpaceCon just before
Mm,
that, and it's more of a autograph. They don't have like the meet and greets quite as much. You can do your um, your photo ops and all that stuff, but because it was at a convention center, once you left, you left, and that
mm.
includes the talent. Well, when they're at a hotel, you're there with them.
Just
And
randomly getting in the lift with them, and you're like, "Oh,
I
hello,"
know.
or randomly outside getting some fresh air, for example, or
Yeah.
at the bar.
Oh my god.
It,
That was
it, yeah.
that was cool. That was probably, you know, of all of it, the coolest part of it. Like I didn't go say hi to her or anything, but I saw Tawny Newsom just sitting in there, just chilling, having a drink. Um,
Mm.
Doug Jones, which I know now I could have got up and said hi to him, and he would have given me probably a free Dougie hug.
Yeah.
Um,
He
Still
likes
got
his
one.
hugs.
Oh my god, does he love his hugs? And he is such the sweetest person. Oh my god, so nice.
Mm.
Um, and then because we both got there Thursday. You got there before me, but I got in Thursday finally, and I'd been texting some people to see if they were there or not yet, and I was told they said yeah, Connor and Dom were there, and some other people were showing up, and sure enough, we walk into the bar. There they are, just sitting
Hmm.
there talking. So I was able to say hi to them, and
Well, I first met them in the lift. Was my first encounter,
oh,
and it was you kind of go around the corner to go and get the lift,
okay.
and they were both just stood there. I was like, oh my gosh, of all the people that I could share a lift with, they're there. So I was just like, hi, I am Jen, Patreon
Okay,
member, and
so that explains something because I didn't
the
know
conversation
how
you
the
had with Connor,
yes,
yeah.
yes, I didn't understand that um, when I get there and was talking to them, and I'm telling them, hey, I said, hey, we've got one of our decon members is over here, and she lives in the hometown that Dominic grew up in Dominic's hometown. And Connor made a comment, yeah, we something about that. I didn't realize you'd run into them in the
Yeah,
well, I'm gonna call it the elevator. I know it's the lift over
the
in your
elevator.
world.
Yeah.
Lift. And okay, so I didn't realize that. Okay,
Yeah, so
that
the three
explains
of
that.
us, got in, and then a load of other people got in afterwards, and I think one of them was English. I couldn't tell you who they were,
Oh yeah.
and it was after Dominic had got out because he was on a lower level than Connor. And then Connor just said, "Oh, so where are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, from, where he's from." And he said, "Oh, have you told him?" I'm thinking, "Nope." And he said, "You should." And then it was his turn to get out. But somebody else in the lift, the lift was quite crowded at this point, actually said, "Really? Poor you." Because of the place, like, in terms of where we live. And I was like, yeah, I know.
Hey.
It happens.
I'm glad that worked out.
But
I'm glad that worked out because I was, like I said, went over there, talked to him, and then, luckily I had already met them. Like, what was it? 2 weeks prior out in LA. And so they knew who I was, which is kind of cool. And when I told Dominic, I said, "Hey, she's over there," and he's like, "Oh, well," and anyway, Dominic, that was so fun. And I just loved watching the two of you talk and get to interact. That's when I went and sat with somebody else.
I was going to say, I looked up at one point and I thought, Chris is gone, because I should have said it at the time. I apologise because we were talking Leicester. So,
that's fine.
It worked out. We were talking Leicester, and it was at that point where there was one point where I actually said to you, "Do you understand what we're saying?" And you're like, "I haven't got a clue."
No,
because
I didn't. I had a clue.
Trying to explain how Leicester people talk. Honestly, it's like a different language, and
well, yeah.
And then we went off again chatting away, and I looked back and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you've disappeared!" And then I came and joined you. I think you came back and got me, and took me back to the bar to join you with the people you were talking with. But it was like, oops.
Oh, that's funny.
So I apologize.
And that was funny
for that
because Dominic was sitting there explaining that to me as well, like words, and I'm like, okay, that's a whole nother language. I'm good. It was just funny, but no. And I hear with you about just conventions in general. I'm like, okay, I've done it. Do I want to do it again? And at that moment, while we were there, my answer was going to probably be not really, but I do want to go to STLV. I do want to go to Vegas. I'm not going to get to go in 2025. It's just not going to happen. But for sure in 26, I should be able to go. Because that's the mecca of conventions.
Yeah.
And we probably both need to figure out how to get there in 2026. So we got time.
Well, I'm actually, I'm hoping to help out with the Olympics in LA, and that's in 2026.
Oh.
So, maybe I can, sort of halfway be there, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 18 months or something to sort that out. So.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I agree. Okay. Well, I think I know the answer. I'm going to guess, but I'm going to let you say it. What piece of Star Trek technology, if it existed, would you want to have right now?
Right now, this second.
If you could,
right now, this second, in this moment in time, I would say a replicator, because I am starving and I could just say, "Pizza, please, pepperoni," and I could be sat here eating. Yeah. That aside, if I'm not hungry, then definitely the transporter.
Yep.
Why would you want anything different? Because that ties into not having to worry about flying. Oh, the conventions here in whatever state, or Vegas, and being able to just beam yourself there and beam yourself back, and going to New York, for example, for lunch with friends, as an example.
Well, I know.
Instead of it taking 3 days out of my calendar to do lunch.
I know. Exactly. So. And that was like, I had someone ask me if I was going to go to the Voyager documentary, and I couldn't. It's not that I couldn't, afford the ticket. I couldn't afford the time because It was the week before. Well, the LA one was the week before Trek to Dallas. So I could not be out of town because now we're going, that's again 2 to 3 days off, give or take. And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't be off from work and another airfare and all that stuff. But hey, if we'd had transporters, I could have just been like, okay, I'll be there. I'll beam in at 7:00 for dinner or whatever. Yeah, that would be the fun. And I forgot about replicators. That'd be cool to have too. Just be able to say
Yeah.
tea or gray hot, or like you said, a pizza. So that's definitely one of the 2 techs that I would love to have right now. Now I do hope I would love.
But you saying that things like the medical tricorder,
correct,
for example, things like that would be revolutionary, and I think that would be have a bigger impact on the life we have today than being able to transport places, but just to be able to say, oh, I've got a headache, and they can diagnose you and go, oh, you've got this ailment, and then give you an injection to clear it.
Correct.
I think that would be amazing.
There's one scene, and it kind of hit home a little bit actually. In the regards to medical, is in Star Trek 4, the one with the whales.
Oh, it's my favorite film. Again, controversial. Yeah. It's my favorite film.
I don't know. It's my favorite, period. I'm gonna go with it. I'm one of those. All the evens were the best for me. Anyway, but no, what I was gonna say, in regards to the medical technology, when Bones is talking to that lady in the hallway, and she's like, I'm here for kidney dialysis, and he gives her that stuff, and then a few minutes later, doctor gave me a pill and I grew a new kidney.
Yeah.
My mother had to be on dialysis for a little while. If he could have given her a pill to heal her kidneys, that would have been awesome. So yes, I do agree with you, especially on the medical stuff. That'd be so nice. It'd be so helpful. And no needles, just hypo, and it goes right on in. Oh, that'd be so nice. Oh, and so I guess this might be a little bit of a philosophical question. I don't know, and you may or may not be able to answer it. Do you think we will ever be able to get even remotely close to Gene Roddenberry's vision of the future?
Yes, is the short answer. I think that we have the capability and the curiosity in order to make it happen. If you look at how technology has grown in the last 10 years, 20 years, I don't consider myself old, but I remember having a black and white TV at home where it had no remote control, and getting a TV where you had a remote control was groundbreaking. Getting a VCR thing, stuff that and you look back and you think, oh my gosh, that's decades ago, back when the dinosaurs were around, kind of mentality. But it wasn't that long ago, and you think of how quick mobile phones, going from the flip phone where you had to have the aerial going up, and look at what you can do with a phone now. So I definitely think we have the capability to do it. Whether or not we will be able to achieve it before we self-destruct is another question.
Correct.
And it will take, if we can get over ourselves and look after each other and look after the planet and still be here in thousands of years' time, then yes, I definitely think we can get out and explore space. It's what we'll find when we get out there.
Get out there. Exactly. Well, and that's something when we were in one of our rooms in the convention, talking with the concierge that was with our group, about, are we going to have the hard reset that they predicted in Star Trek? I hope not. And I've talked to some other people and they don't think we will. And I hope that's the case. So, but yeah, I think we have the ability to get there. Now, will it be in my lifetime? I don't know. Probably not. But hey, we may get lucky. But some of the technology we'll see, obviously.
Yeah.
And every day medical technology is getting better and better. I know someone who they straight up told me that their oncologist told them that if they'd been diagnosed with the cancer they had 10 years prior to that, would have been told, getting your affairs ready. But today, but when this person had it, they're like, okay, well, good chance you're going to recover from it,
Yeah.
So, and that was just 10 years. So yeah, it's just crazy. So that's that. Yeah, it is good. And that's where I hope we can get to there, and just not blow ourselves up or anybody that we meet out there.
Yeah. I think we do have to go a long way out to find somebody of the same, I was going to say of the same capacity, of the same forms, but what I mean is that's not a microbe.
Yeah. So, okay, this is kind of it's not completely off topic. It's still space-ish and related. And this part may or may not stay on here. It may go on the Patreon side later on. Whatever you think about all of these orbs or aliens, supposedly UAPs, that have been showing up everywhere lately. I don't know if you've been keeping up with that or not. It especially happened over in the UK a couple of weeks ago.
Really? I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, look it up.
I've been so engrossed with work that everything else is taking a back seat. So I will have a look at that.
If you want to watch a video, go look up the Angry Astronaut. He has, and I know we watched the same stuff. He has a whole video on that, or a couple about that. And it was going over the UK and some of the bases, I think. And so, yeah, it'd be interesting.
I do think there are things that potentially have come here. I don't necessarily think Little Green Men, for example, but
no,
I've seen some stuff. Not when I was growing up, but I was probably about 20. I've seen something that looked like a spaceship, and I know I didn't imagine it because I had my friend with me, and it originally we thought it was the moon, but it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the fact that we had each other there to say, "Are you seeing this?" It's like, yes, but it was before the times of mobile phones, so it wasn't like whip out your phone and
exactly
stuff. And it was just getting bigger and bigger, and then it just kind of moved. I grew up in Kent, so it's in the countryside, so it's quite isolated. And my dad has also seen a UFO, the one that's quite well documented in the 1960s, because it nearly hit a plane, a commercial airline. So everybody on the airline saw it. A lot of people down on the ground saw it. So there's definitely stuff up there. Now, whether or not it is stuff coming from far away or not, who knows it. But if it's not, then that's kind of an indication of the technology that is already in existence that we just don't know about.
Correct.
So either way, there's stuff happening up in space, I think.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, there's too much space for there not to be other civilizations out there.
Did you At the convention, were you there at the talk? I don't know if you were in one of the meet and greets when the astrophysicists, I think they were talking about
No,
space. Oh my God.
that's okay. That's my one. It's my own fault because I was more worried about getting autographs at times. I did not always make it to the panels, and I would have loved to have
Right.
heard that one. And also, because I paid the money to be the VIP package. Um, we were always we actually kind of had a timeline for our stuff. Not
Mm.
always, but sometimes we didn't. We'd get done and a panel was already going. And so I would just stay, wait for the next, because the thing is, the person that was talking at that panel was probably going to be our next meet and greet.
Meet and greet. Yeah.
And so I didn't want to miss it. So, but tell me about that one because I did
Oh,
not get, was it good?
they they were they were so interesting, honestly. And they explained the science behind, is there the possibility of life out there? And
Mm-hmm.
you could do a whole video on it. To be honest, it was so interesting about the conditions have to be right. And if you look at X,
Mm-hmm.
Y, and Z, you can see and how that is in our little solar system, and then you multiply that by the galaxies and how
Mm-hmm.
many there are and stuff. There is definitely a high probability that there is
Yeah.
other life forms out there. In terms of why they possibly haven't made contact, is because they're so far away.
Mm-hmm.
When they're looking at the Earth, they're probably seeing the dinosaurs. So they think that we're not technologically advanced enough to accept
Advanced.
them. And when
Mm-hmm.
you think that back to Star Trek and the Prime Directive and everything, where
Yeah.
they do not interfere with cultures and forms that don't have technology. And that's the answer, or that's the answer that they gave to why has nobody made contact. Because when they're looking at us, we're still 2, 3, four
Yeah.
thousand years. In fact, I think they even said it's like 30,000 years in the
Mm-hmm.
past. So they don't know we exist yet.
I can believe that. I can see how that works because
It's
of the time the light travels and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
I
It was
mean,
honestly, it was fascinating the way they explained it, and it was
I
like
wish I'd have been to those.
it was amazing. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I told myself this time it was the autographs and all that stuff. But the next time I go, I'm gonna do the panels. But that one would have been a cool one to have actually watched and listened to.
Yeah,
Um,
because they were
because
linking today's science, etc.,
yeah,
with Star Trek, because they were both Trekkies anyway. It was
of
bridging that
course.
gap between the two. Yeah, it was fascinating, absolutely
That'd have been
fascinating.
so cool to listen to. Yeah, yeah, there has to be something else out there.
Mm.
And like they said as well, um, that would have been a good panel. Oh, next time.
And it'll be the same for us. If we're looking out
Mhm.
into the world, we probably aren't going to see if there's somebody there because, again,
Correct.
it's 30,000 years prior.
Well,
So,
and to go along with the prime directive of non-interference,
mm,
um, if why would you want to talk to a civilization, a race that cannot do what you're doing? Because you could contaminate them,
mm,
and if they're not ready for it, it could cause a lot of other issues. Um, so I have to agree. I mean, even though the prime directive is cumbersome, it makes a lot of sense. And you can tie that back to a very specific Enterprise episode. And if I remember it's correct, the episode was Dear Doctor. And it is the one where Phlox or the Enterprise goes onto a planet and there's two races. One is more advanced than the other. And Dr. Phlox determines that the lower race is evolving and that the disease that is, wiping out the advanced race, you know which one I'm talking about now?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Phlox is asked to find a cure. And he finds it. He figures it out. And he goes back and forth on whether or not he should tell Captain Archer he found it and he figured it out. It's a very good episode. That's one of your thinker episodes because T'Pol makes another good point to the captain is that if you do this, why is it his decision to interfere with that civilization's evolution? And it's not. And she said, look how long we've been on Earth helping y'all. And he decides that he's not out there to play God. And I love that line. He's telling Phlox, until someone gives us a directive on what to do and what not to do, I'll have to be making those decisions. And so that was perfect tie-in to the future Prime Directive. And another one of those, the Vulcans were right again.
Yeah.
I know. It's a thinker.
I mean, that's what Star Trek is, though. The underlying currents are those moral dilemmas in their world. Like we can do this and we can save thousands, millions of this race, but we're interfering with their natural evolution because, especially when you look at Earth, nature has a way of acting. It's very finely balanced. So if you got somebody that came in and goes, do you know what? We're gonna do this, and it will disrupt the balance and disrupt our natural course. So very tough decision.
It is a very tough decision. And it's also a tough decision that we're about out of time.
Okay.
And so we have to start ending it here. But I want to thank you for joining me today and for being willing to do this.
Thank you for having me.
It's been fun. You're interview number 2. So we're growing. It's going to take a while, but that's the whole process of this channel. And I just look forward to seeing you again. And hopefully we will run into each other in STLV one of these days.
Yes. Yeah. 2026. You heard it here. We will both be there.
We'll be there.
Saving.
Yeah. All right. Oh, yeah. Start saving. Well, I appreciate it.
Okay.
And I hope you have a good evening. And I will talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.